Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Welcome to another one of my Am I a Chap series, but this time I am not taking an image which has been sent in by a viewer to sartorially unpack it. This time I'm following some advice from a viewer who wrote to me and said, why don't you take a look at this gentleman, he's exceptionally well dressed. I think he's got some style lessons we can all learn. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I'm going to take a look at the sartorial stylings of a minor member of the British royal family, but still a man who, in the world of royalty, embodies timeless style and sophistication. And that is Prince Michael of Kent. He is known for his impeccable taste and his regal demeanour. He's become something of an icon of men's style over his decades, not quite in the public eye as a sort of lower level minor British royal family member, but still he has got certainly some style and certainly some things which actually, when you look at it, we can all learn from. Now I imagine many of you watching this are thinking, who's Prince Michael of Kent? I've never heard of the guy. Okay, I'll just explain who he is so we've got the perspective. Prince Michael of Kent is what I would describe as a minor member of the British royal family. He's a non-working royal. He doesn't hold the title HRH, His Royal Highness, because he isn't actually somebody who performs public duties. He doesn't draw any money from the public purse for his activities. He's a private citizen, but his prince title derives from the fact that he is in effect the king's second cousin. So Prince Michael of Kent's father, Prince George, Duke of Kent, was one of the brothers of the king, King George V. Now, his older brother, King George VII, was the Queen's father, and then the other brother was King Edward VII. That's the one who abdicated. So basically, he is the son of the king's son, all right? Because in the British royal system, if you are the child of the reigning monarch or the grandchild of the reigning monarch, you get the title prince or princess, all right? So only child or grandchild. And Prince Michael of Kent was the grandchild of the king of the day. That's where he gets his title from. So like I say, non-working royal, and he's got an older brother who's Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent. So that's where he sort of fits in to the current royal structure. Now, he's had a fairly interesting life, to be fair, Prince Michael of Kent, although he's, not really in the public eye. Like many of the royal family, he started off life. In fact, his father, Prince George, was actually killed in the Second World War in a plane crash. So he never really knew his father. And he went off to school at Eton as a young lad. And this, in a way, might be one of the cues that we get which has altered his views of style. Because Eton, it's often described as the poshest school in Britain, and certainly students who attend that school have to wear a very heritage-laden, almost historical school uniform, which features, white tie, tailcoat. It's almost an anachronism in the modern world, but certainly if you get used to dressing in a hyper-formal style on a daily basis, it's going to have an impression on you as you go through life. So we went to Eton. After Eton, unlike many royals do who, really are going to find it difficult to survive in the modern world looking for a normal job, they tend to take the path into the armed forces. And that's exactly what Prince Michael of Kent did. He joined the British Army, went to Sandhurst, and he became an officer in the Hussars, which is a cavalry regiment. So these days they operate sort of tanks and stuff, not horses, but it's still called the cavalry. And again, the cavalry element of the British Army, the officer corps for sure, is very much a heritage laden part of the British military, where fanciful uniforms and brightly coloured trousers and strange adornments on the uniforms are very much part of, even to this modern day, their formal ceremonial outfits. So very much, again, starting to create a flavour with Prince Michael of the type of style which he's going to get involved with. Now, to be fair to Prince Michael, he wasn't just a flash in the pan. He served in the British Army for a full career, 20 years of military service. He rose to the rank of major. So you could say he had a sort of grinding middle career, sort of lower middle ranking officer, certainly wasn't a high flyer, wasn't a high rank individual. So basically he had a pretty good career. He served in Germany and Cyprus and some other places as well. So he had what one might describe as a good, solid career at that time. So again, as I say, been to Eton, served in the military, there's a certain style which one expects men of that nature. And definitely Prince Michael is deeply steeped within that. And when you see images of him as a younger fellow, and even in uniform, you can tell there's a certain bit of panache about the man. You know, he's certainly interested in his appearance. So, what do we know about him? He still wears a uniform because being, as I say, a minor member of the royal family and having the prince title, there are very few princes, princesses, so they tend to get asked to be things like honorary air commodores, honorary admirals, things like that, patrons of charities. I know he's a patron of a number of charities I've been involved with, and he is quite a selfless guy when it comes to his time. So he puts the effort in. He's often, in other words, he's used to wearing, regimental ties, charity ties. Again, we're forming something about the way this man's sartorial path has been carved out. Now, it's fair to say he's genetically he's got quite a few advantages as a genetic individual. He is 6 feet in height, and he is and has been throughout his life. He's 81 now, but if you look at pictures of him 20 years ago, 40 years ago, and there are many images of him, because being a prince, you do get quite a bit of media exposure, but he's always kept himself in trim. He's lean. He's got a very good frame for wearing a suit on, it is fair to say. So he's still in good shape, even into his 80s. And when you see the guy wearing a uniform, it is apparent to me that he takes pride in the way that he puts that uniform on, with all the accoutrements and the badges and the medals which he's entitled to wear. They're all perfectly placed. He's not somebody who dresses in a haphazard fashion and just gets away with it because he's got a title. Quite the opposite. I think he really plays up to, the importance of the roles which he has, and he takes pride in his appearance. And he's also quite a polymath of a guy. I mean, he speaks several different languages, fluent in French, working knowledge of German and a few other languages, but very unusually, he speaks fluent Russian, and he is actually qualified as an interpreter from Russian to English. So quite a skill, actually, and he served in intelligence roles while he was in the British Army, aside from normal regimental duty. So used some of that knowledge and skill which his fine education has pushed in his direction. Okay, so let's talk about the actual styles which Prince Michael of Kent employs to be an extremely well-dressed and dapper man, and what lessons he's got for us. So first of all, let's talk about the main items which we see a gentleman of this nature wearing, and that's his suits. He's a man who is almost always pictured in a suit or a blazer and slacks. He's a smart man, and it's fair to say, he's, as I say, got something of a perfect frame for putting a suit on. 6 feet in height, broad shoulders, lean of waist, and he's kept himself very much at optimal weight throughout his entire life. Takes a lot of effort and self-discipline to do that, particularly when you're a man, certainly a member of the royal family, where, to be honest, excess is part of your life. You can eat what you want, drink what you want. Work isn't quite, quite so important. And for Prince Michael of Kent, when he left the army, he started to work in business consultancy because, like I say, he doesn't draw any funds from the public. He has to make his own path in life, and he does so by doing management consultancy work and the like with brands. And he dresses accordingly, as you would imagine somebody working in the international consultancy field. He tends to favour very classic, clean lines on his suits. And quite often, for the majority of images you see of him, he is typically wearing a double-breasted suit. Double-breasted coat, and that really plays well for a man with broad shoulders and a relatively slim waist. It gives a fabulous silhouette, makes you look more masculine, and it gives you that sort of broad chest. It's a really flattering look for people who can pull it off. And most of the time you'll see him wearing, a double-breasted suit to very positive effect. Now, it's rumoured, because we don't really know, but it's rumoured that his favourite tailor is Anderson and Shepherd, just off Savile Row in London. They are also known to be the tailor of His Majesty the King. They hold the royal warrant for His Majesty the King. So it's definitely a bespoke suit maker, which, you know, really does operate at the very highest level. I know, for instance, or I've been told, that Daniel Craig, formerly James Bond, he goes to Anderson and Shepherd's for his suits, now that he's divorced from his contract with Tom Ford in the Bond days. So certainly Anderson and Shepherd, very classic, but surprisingly, Prince Michael of Kent, he also favours the Napoli-based bespoke tailor of Rubinacci, the tailoring house, which is known for clean sort of sporting lines. So interesting choices. His shirts, and they're quite interesting, more of them in a moment, but as you can imagine, Turnbull and Asser, you know, tends to be the best shirt maker in the world, immense reputation, and to be fair, you know, where else would you need to go? Certainly that's where I'd be going if I had the funds necessary. So aside from the suits, what else do we talk about? Let's talk about the accessories, because when it comes to Prince Michael of Kent, there's one item which you see him wearing in 99 out of 100 images. If you look him up on the internet, look at his wrist, his left wrist, because he'll be wearing a bimetal Audemars Piguet Royal Oak wristwatch, and it is a watch which seems to have been with him for decades and decades. Now, you might see the odd image of him wearing a Cartier tank wristwatch, and it's also, he's been seen wearing a Rolex Submariner 50th anniversary LV model, so, you know, the Kermit. But 99 times out of 100, you will see this Royal Oak on his wrist, and I absolutely think it's a beautiful, beautiful watch. It may have personal relevance to him, it might be sentimental in some way, but certainly it's a classically elegant watch. And for me, I mean, I remember spotting this years and years and years ago, seeing this on Prince Michael's wrist and thinking to myself, he really rocks that watch. It is such a beautiful piece. And in some respects, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak has been described as being something of a industrial looking watch. It's quite angular. It's predominantly stainless steel in this model he's wearing here. Could have a solid gold one, could have a total stainless steel one. The one he's wearing is bimetal. It's mostly stainless steel with accents of gold and with a dark, I'm presuming, a black dial. It is a watch which effortlessly sits with the classically elegance of his suits. I think it works well. And I envy him because, you know, he has found a watch which he loves and he's worn it constantly. And, you know, for people like me who have a bit of a magpie mentality about watches, I buy a watch, I want another one, I want another one, and I'm always changing my mind. I truly envy people who can buy one beautiful, immaculate grail piece, and that's it, they're done. It's a one and done. You can wear it for the rest of your life. And that Royal Oak, pretty much always on his wrist. But when it comes to the styling of Prince Michael of Kent, there is certainly one thing that stands out every time you see the man, and that is his tie knot, all right? The tie that he wears. He has always been in the habit of wearing this enormous 4-in-hand asymmetrical monstrous tie knot at his collar, and there's no doubt about it, it is spectacularly large, and often, you know, if you look at it, you might think, what on earth is he doing? It's clearly outsized for the outfit and the situation he's sitting in. And regardless of the situation, whether he's out at a fancy event, whether he's often pictured at Wimbledon watching the tennis, he's got the Wimbledon club tie, always got this enormous asymmetrical, big bulbous tie knot. And I hear that most of the ties which he wears are from Turnbull and Asser, as are his shirts. And he pairs those big tie knots with quite long collared shirts, so I dare say he has them bespoke made to accommodate that quite unusual tie knot choice which he has made. Now, I have to say, earlier on in my own sartorial journey, when I looked at images of Prince Michael in Kent, I used to think to myself, what the hell is he doing with that tie knot? He is clearly a sartorially educated man. He must look in the mirror in the morning when he's putting that tie on and think to himself, this is too big. You know, I'm wearing a tie knot which is twice the size of the average individual who would also tie that knot on a daily basis. Why does he choose to do it? And it is my belief that he does it because it has become something of his style signature. All right. When you see that knot, you expect to see Prince Michael of Kent wearing it, and it has become for him very much, his signature appearance. And I get it now. After many years of thinking it looked ludicrous, I get it. It is very much part of his personality being demonstrated in that tie knot. It's almost a bit of sprezzatura. It's, I don't care what you think about how a tie should be knotted. This is what I'm wearing, and I don't care what you think. This is me. And I get it now, and I find it really refreshing that a man so deeply steeped in the world of the bespoke tailor and, being a royal in the public eye, you're expected to look a certain way. He doesn't care about that. He's dressing like this, and so that's the way it's going to be. Now, the other thing you will notice when you see an image of Prince Michael of Kent is, in fact, his personal grooming. All right, so, he has, throughout his life, always had this full set of whiskers on the face, and as we've watched him age in the public eye, from quite dark hair, now he's got like a snowy white beard, but he's always cultivated this quite regal, sort of full set, this wonderfully shaped beard, which again has become a calling card. And he looks very much in the vein of old kings, the way they used to have their facial hair. He's been described many times as bearing a striking resemblance to a relative of his, the last Tsar of Russia, Tsar Nicholas of the Romanov dynasty. And they always had these sort of very shaped, kingly, monarch type beards, and Prince Michael of Kent has certainly rocked those facial hairs, or that facial hair, throughout his life, and I think it just works for him. And along with that tie knot and that beard, it's become his signature appearance. Okay, so very quickly, rounding up, what lessons has he taught us in his sartorial styles today? Well, first of all, dress for your physique, all right? He's kept himself in shape, and he dresses in a way that takes advantage of that. Tall man, 6 feet, broad shoulders, slim waist, kept himself lean. Why not wear a suit which really makes that pop? Double-breasted suit, accentuates the shoulders, nips you in at the waist, makes you look super smart. Got that sort of military sort of leaning to it, similar to many uniforms, particularly the Royal Navy uniform, double-breasted. It works well if you can pull it off. Certainly Prince Michael does that. One thing he's taught us, he has taken an ordinary everyday tie, a typical item from a gentleman's wardrobe, which we don't really think too much about, other than choosing the colour perhaps and the pattern that we're going to wear, and he has turned it into a signature item in his wardrobe by focusing on the knot. As simple as that. Choosing to have a much larger tie knot than anybody else you'll see in the world today, he has made that his signature appearance, and it's an unmistakable element of his sartorial style. And that also goes to his beard. He's worn this full set of whiskers all his life, and again, he's kept it well groomed. It always looks so smart, it looks so regal, and again, it has become an unmistakable signature appearance for this man. You know who he is. You could look at his silhouette and recognize him amongst his peers. And finally, the one thing I said, he's taught us that you don't have to own 20 different luxury watches. If you get one that you really love, it fits in with your ensemble of clothing, your wardrobe, you can wear it with everything, you can be passionate about that watch for decades and decades, and it will do the job for you, look great, and you get the pleasure of really living with an exquisite timepiece without having to own multiples and multiples and then having to choose which one you wear on every other day of the week. So there we go, some simple lessons from a minor member of the British royal family who I think you'll agree, he really is a chap. He truly knows how to rock the sartorial world, and those little touches may not even be noticed by many, but actually, when put together in one ensemble, makes all the difference. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more like this, click the subscribe button. Come on the journey with me to Chap Nirvana. If you'd like to support the channel practically, you can just leave me a comment. You could send me an email, send me an image of yourself in your clothing, and I will carry out a style assessment upon you. You can practically support the channel by buying me a coffee, one-off thing, or becoming a patron. Extra videos, extra dialogue with me over on the Patreon channel, and all of those things you will find linked in the show notes below. So until the next time, take care, cultivate your chap appearance, and I will see you again very soon.